Hi, my name is Leanne Cannon, and this is Backstory on Business. I can't wait for you to see who my next guest is.
Welcome to this episode of Backstory on Business with your host, Leanne Cannon.
Hi, friends. Welcome to Backstory on Business. My guest today is Kristen Boone. She's an estate planning attorney and the owner of Boone Legal in Kent, Ohio. Her firm has a different focus on estate planning than most other estate planning firms out there. Let's see what that even means, okay? Welcome, Kristen. I'm so glad that you're here.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Oh, sure. I'm excited to have you.
Me too.
So to get started, I'm assuming that maybe many of our viewers are unclear about exactly what estate planning is. Could you enlighten us on what that term really means?
Sure. Estate planning, in a nutshell, refers to what happens to your assets when you pass away. And if you have small children, it would also refer to who is named to raise those children should you pass away. Commonly, estate planning is a last will and testament or will, or it takes the form of a trust.
Okay. So who needs estate planning?
So that's an interesting question, because often when I'm asked that often when I present, people will say to me, hey, my parents are getting older and I wonder if they have estate planning in place. Is that something that you could help them with? And my response is, of course, I would love to help your parents with their estate planning, but I'd like to ask you, do you know what would happen if something happened to you today and you left your little ones at home? Do you know who would raise your children? And I often receive a panicked look in response to that question. So estate planning really encompasses a wide spectrum. If you're just 18 years old, a simple healthcare power of attorney, a living will, and maybe a financial power of attorney might be all that you need. But if you have a home and small children and some life insurance, then you might need some more comprehensive planning, which would usually take the form of a trust.
Wow, that would have been my knee-jerk reaction too, to think seniors, someone that's about to retire.
Yeah.
But this makes me ask, and perhaps you're wondering the same thing too, what happens when parents of small children do pass away?
Yeah, there's actually kind of two avenues that this can take. If parents have done correct planning and they have named legal guardians for their children and they've placed their assets into a trust, then the people who the parents have named will care for the children, and the financial assets will be administered by the people that the parents have named to handle those assets. Sometimes for some families that's the same person, and sometimes in some families that's not the best choice. So there's a guardian over the children, and then there's somebody who's responsible for the financial assets. But that's all off the radar screen of the probate court and the general public if we have done proper estate planning. Now, parents who haven't done proper estate planning, there's a different result. They have to go before the children have to have guardians appointed by the court. A judge actually picks who will raise your children if you are unable to, or if you haven't named those documents in advance. Yeah. Financial assets are placed in an account with the probate court. An attorney is often hired for this process because it's complicated and it's expensive. And the attorney's actually compensated out of the funds that are on deposit with the probate court, which are essentially the child's funds.
Oh my.
Yeah, and then the child will receive the assets at age 18 totally unprotected. So that doesn't seem that horrible sometimes, but when I think of my own self at age 18, I'm not sure that that's a very good result for
families. No, that doesn't sound good to me at all. Does it sound good to you?
Yeah.
That really doesn't. It doesn't sound like the best thing, and who would have thought that would be the case?
Mm-hmm.
So you had mentioned earlier that someone with a proper estate planning in place can avoid all that.
Mm-hmm.
So what would that look like for parents of young children?
So for parents with young children, a proper estate plan usually does include a trust. and which is just a vehicle that we use to title their assets and make them pass according to their wishes. It also includes naming the long and short-term guardians for the children, and it can also involve some more documentation that would help you raise, somebody else raise your children if you're unable to. In my firm, we call that a kids protection plan. It's a whole set of comprehensive documents that we do every time we have parents with minor children into our office.
Okay. Now, can you tell me what a trust really does for somebody? I mean, what if somebody doesn't have, like a lot of money to open a trust?
Yeah, so it's actually a common thing to think that the only people who need a trust or who have a trust have a lot of assets. Mm-hmm. And previously, really many generations ago, a trust was something that was only available to the very wealthy. But a trust now is much more accessible to everybody. It's estate planning that just means that you're avoiding probate and you're making sure that it's your wishes that are being directed and not those of the law or probate court. So a trust is available to really everybody.
Wow. Isn't that eye-opening? So we used to equate a trust with money. Now we know, thanks to Kristen, that we can equate trust with our wishes. That's really important to know. Thank you for sharing that. If somebody wants to get a hold of you, Kristen, how would they do that?
Yeah, we have a website. It's www.boonelegal.com. Our phone number is 330-968-6003. Or they're welcome to email us at info@boonelegal.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure to have you. And thank you for joining us. I hope to see you next time on Backstory on Business.
Thank you for watching Backstory on Business. Want to recommend a business for us to highlight? Contact Karen Leonard using the information listed on the screen.